Yeah, you're scared. I get it. And you should be with a few of these names. Now, some other guys, maybe not. Maybe some other guys are intriguing by low candidates. Our first guy with JT is a player that I wanted to pull my hair out with this week, okay? I mean, I was so excited about the news that he was playing. I was so excited about the new contract. And I went through and said initially, okay, he's a must-start running back for us. Then the snap count news came out and I was like, okay, maybe he's not a must-start guy. Maybe he's not the RB10, but he's still a mid-running back too. He's still someone that's probably going to be seeing 60% of this backfield, and we can give Zach Moss his 30, 40%. Let him do with that whatever he wants, and we're going to start Jonathan Taylor. Okay, well, fast forward, Zach Moss, 23 carries, 165 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. You look into the snaps played here, it is hilarious where Jonathan Taylor plays 10 snaps, Zach Moss plays 53. And with those 53 snaps, Zach Moss looked like one of the best running backs in the NFL. Now, with that being said, we need to ask ourselves, okay, what is this situation going forward in Indianapolis? Has anything changed here? Nope. Well, it is incredible to see Zach Moss do this. And while Zach Moss is someone that you need to go pick up off the waiver wire if somehow, some way he was dropped, and we need to be rostering him on our bench because if JT goes down, we now know that Zach Moss is going to see, a ridiculous workload. And we've seen over the past few weeks, he's a locked and loaded RB1 with no Jonathan Taylor, or if Jonathan Taylor is going to play 10 or fewer snaps. Now, the question is, will Zach Moss be leading the backfield going forward? Will Jonathan Taylor be playing 10 snaps going forward? And I have more than one reason why that's not going to happen. To be exact, I have 42 million reasons why that is not going to happen. The contract you give Jonathan Taylor indicates that Jonathan Taylor will be the starting running back. This coaching staff, the report was that Jonathan Taylor would be slowly worked in. Now, this next week, I'm not starting Zach Moss. I may not start Jonathan Taylor. It's going to depend on the team. I think if you look at our running back rankings, this next week, I'm going to have JT ranked as that mid RB2 like we did this past week. I think I may have Zach Moss ranked as a low-end RB2. I'm expecting it to be a Jonathan Taylor 60-40 split with Zach Moss. And as we get further into the season, I expect JT to still be taking more and more of this backfield, looking similar to what we saw from Jonathan Taylor over the past 2 years. If you look at his market share numbers, I am not panicking about Jonathan Taylor. It's going to take a little bit more time than we initially thought. And we should have known that. We should have listened to that because that's exactly what they told us. Now, going over to our next running back, we've been talking about him for a while now. And with Derrick Henry, up and down, up and down, up and down. And it's super simple. We've seen this for 5 weeks now. We have an easy explanation. What happens if the Tennessee Titans get out to an early lead? What happens if the game's competitive? And what happens if they can run the ball? Derrick Henry in the 2 wins, 25 carries, 80 rushing yards, rushing touchdown. Derrick Henry, 22 carries, 122 rushing yards, and the rushing touchdown. Whereas in the games where the Tennessee Titans falls behind, in the games where Ryan Tannehill makes it where they can't really do much, you have Derrick Henry, 15 carries, 11 carries, 13 carries, and instead you're getting Tyjae Spears used more and more. We're seeing Tyjae Spears, his workload kind of is consistent. He has 19 targets in comparison to Derrick Henry at 11. Now, it's very funny as Derrick Henry with those 11 targets is at over 100 receiving yards. Tyjae Spears only sitting at 63. So it is funny to see the Henry efficiency as a receiver. But nonetheless, Spears is the receiving down back. And in games where he gets out of hand for Tennessee, which will be every once in a while, Tyjae Spears will be the guy like this Indy game. Now, going forward and mapping this out and trying to figure out what the game flow is going to be for these running backs, you have Tennessee going up against Baltimore. Probably a close game. Probably give me Baltimore, but you could see Tennessee winning. You could see them using Derrick Henry often. You have Derrick Henry and the Falcons. You could easily see the Tennessee Titans winning that game. You could see that being a Henry game. You have the Titans Steelers. That could be a Henry game. We don't know. The Titans Bucks. That could be a Henry game. Titans Jags, that could be a Henry game. Titans Panthers, that could be a Henry game. Titans Colts, that could be Henry. So the thing is, yes, you should not have drafted Derrick Henry. We talked about this coming into the season. He's going into his age 30 year. We looked at every historical comp from a similar age 29-year-old season, and we saw it across the board, whether it was LaShawn McCoy, whether it was, Marshawn Lynch, those running backs that looked the same 100% of the time got worse going into their age 30 season, which is why you shouldn't have drafted Derrick Henry, plus obviously the injury risk. But to go through and sell him now, it's just way too late. Like, you missed the boat, right? You just have to be realistic with your expectations. Is he a locked and loaded elite level RB1 every week? No, he's not. Is he someone that you still start every week? Yeah, he is. And you just hope that Tennessee is going to be better, and you just hope the game environment is a little more suitable for Henry going forward. Now, going over to London to talk about a running back in James Cook. You have James Cook back-to-back weeks now operating in a three-man running back by committee. You have Damien Harris and Latavius Murray getting involvement. Now, there's another reason to be worried. I know a lot of people are going to see, 5 carries, -4 rushing yards. Really, really tough to see that with James Cook. And obviously, it's not great if you started him. We wanted fantasy points. But projecting going forward, I'm not expecting James Cook to average -0.8 rushing yards per carry. That's not going to happen. The efficiency will improve. I'm always focusing on the workload. I'm always focusing on the usage and how that's trending. And now we've seen it happen twice, right? Where last week I had people who are massive James Cook truthers in the comment section going, Mason, you're overreacting with James Cook. The usage is okay. The reason they used Harris was because they blew out the other team. And that will happen a lot in these Buffalo Bills games. We know that the Buffalo Bills have the tendency to blow out crappy football teams. Now, we have seen that they're willing to use a three-man running back by committee when that happens. And we have seen that they're willing to use it even when they're losing. And this is the most concerning thing. Because if you are looking at James Cook, you would naturally assume that he's going to get every single snap in the 2-minute drill, every single snap on third down, and every single snap when they have to go out there and aggressively throw the ball. That didn't happen. James Cook had all the snaps in the 2-minute drill, but on third down, according to this PFF chart, you have James Cook at 3, you have Damien Harris at 2, you have Latavius Murray at 3. So I think we are a little bit concerned about James Cook. Now, should we go out there and panic sell him? Probably not, right? Probably still like a mid to low end RB2, just more so the usage that we want to monitor. Now, our next player we should panic about, but before we get to him, of course, let me remind you, if you haven't done so already, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And my favorite pick'em for tonight in that Packers game is going to be Christian Watson for more than 40.5 receiving yards over there on Underdog Fantasy. And of course, if you want to check out that or any other pick'em on Underdog, you can find that link in the comment section. Find it in the description. Promo code FLOCK is going to get you a 100% deposit match up to $500. Plus, you're going to get our updated rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, a Jordan Love special pick'em more than less than half a passing yard going up against the Raiders tonight. And we got everybody hooked up that use promo code FLOCK as well with a Justin Herbert special pick'em more than less than half a total yard on Monday night. Underdog legitimately never has 2 pick'ems the same week. So please make sure you are taking advantage. And also, my birthday's tomorrow would be the best gift you can get me. Promo code FLOCK is going to be the only way you get both those pick'ems. Now, going over to our next guy, yes, panic with Rhamondre Stevenson. Rhamondre Stevenson so far this season has been one of the least efficient players in the entire NFL. Rhamondre Stevenson, 68 carries, 188 rushing yards, giving you a straight 2.8 yards per carry. Now, is that the most concerning thing about Rhamondre Stevenson, or is it the receiving usage? Because you look at Rhamondre and go, Mason, come on, man. It's not his fault. He's playing in the worst offense in the NFL. So far, this is what we've had from New England. 20 points, 17 points, 15 points, 3 points, and 0 points. Arguably the worst offense in the NFL, right alongside the New York Giants. So you'd say, it's not his fault. He's not a great rusher. What we want is him to be used as a receiver. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have 87 receiving yards for Rhamondre Stevenson through 5 weeks. The running back that last year had similar usage to Alvin Kamara as a receiver is now essentially a nothing burger, is 0 in that category in games where the environment should be built exactly for him. What's crazy too is in these blowouts, Ezekiel Elliott's getting involved. Ezekiel Elliott has 4 targets out of the backfield. Ezekiel Elliott has 25 snaps in comparison to Rhamondre Stevenson at 27. So Rhamondre's in one of the worst offenses in the NFL, not getting used as a receiver, laughably inefficient as a rusher. If you could sell him up name value, let's do it. In reality, you probably can't. And he's probably someone that you just got to bench going forward. Now, going over to Nico Collins, I'm going to be super brief. Nico Collins had a bad week, and we ranked Nico Collins aggressively. I ranked Nico Collins as a high-end wide receiver 2 this week, and I had him as a must-start guy. I think that, realistically speaking, you're probably just going to see Nico Collins be a little bit more volatile than that. I mean, we saw in week 3, only 3 targets. We saw in week 5, only 4 targets. And this is what separates the cream of the crop, right? This is what separates the elite level wide receivers, such as like Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown. These guys are going to perform week in and week out. And their floor, they're at least going to go out there and get you 9 fantasy points. Versus the boom bust options, those wide receiver 2s that some weeks are going to crush it. Some weeks they're going to go out there and get you 168 receiving yards, multiple receiving touchdowns, and 9 targets. And then the next one, they're going to give you 4 targets and 39 receiving yards. I'm not going to be panicking with Nico Collins. I think we just have to be realistic with who he is going forward. Really nice that the Houston Texans have their offensive line coming back together. I think Stroud will get better. And then also Tank Dell is dealing with a concussion. And yeah, Robert Woods had 9 targets. Robert Woods led this team in targets this week. Don't expect that to be the case going forward. Now, I want to briefly touch on Jahmyr Gibbs, and this is something that we need to kind of change our thesis with Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Because not only does Gibbs not play this week, which has no impact on the Detroit Lions, but we don't know exactly what the Gibbs timeline looks like. And even if we have Jahmyr Gibbs coming back in, David Montgomery has been such an effective rusher where I'm going out and saying, okay, well, it's very hard to imagine that Gibbs takes anything as a rusher. We essentially just need him to be going out there and seeing 6-7 targets per game. And I initially thought we could get that. I thought that Jahmyr Gibbs would be a running back that could get up to 7 targets a game and could be like that rookie season Alvin Kamara. Even if he's not seeing every single touch, he's getting the high value touches, right? But the issue is the Detroit Lions have one of the best offenses in the NFL. The Detroit Lions look like they may be one of the best teams in the NFL. They're currently sitting at 4-1. Their one loss against the Seattle Seahawks in overtime, a game that David Montgomery missed. And going forward, we need to project out how many game environments will it look like it will favor Jahmyr Gibbs. Because with Gibbs, we need the Lions trailing. We need them throwing the ball aggressively and taking David Montgomery out of the game. The Bucs game, who will be favored there? The Lions. The Ravens game, who will be favored there? The Lions. The Raiders game, who will be favored there? The Lions. The Chargers game, in LA, call it a toss-up. The Bears game, Lions favored by a zillion. Packers game, in Detroit, Lions favored. Saints game, Lions favored. Bears game, Lions favored. Broncos game, Lions favored. Vikings game, Detroit favored. Cowboys, who knows? Probably Detroit in the last. If you go through and look at this Detroit schedule, going forward, it is one of the softest schedules in the entire NFL. So it's really hard to see how this Gibbs usage changes. If I'm still a, say, 4-1 team and it's a full BBR format, 3-2 team, full BBR league, 100% I'm holding on to Jahmyr Gibbs. In that full BBR league, I still think he can be viable. I just think that the ceiling may be a little bit lower based off how good this Detroit Lions team is in the overall game environment. Now, going over to our next team, I want to call it a team because we got 3 players to talk about. I want to talk about Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, and CeeDee Lamb. Now, everything's hinging on Dak, right? I don't necessarily think CeeDee Lamb all of a sudden turned into a pumpkin. I don't think that Tony Pollard all of a sudden is a bad running back. But Dak Prescott has not been a good quarterback. Dak Prescott coming out of this 49ers game, obviously hard to go through and judge him too harshly against the best defense or one of the best defenses in the NFL. We'll call it the best. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. And now what we have seen from Dak Prescott this year is 5 total passing touchdowns through the course of this season. And it's been a function of a lot of different game environments where you go through and you look at the majority of games that the Dallas Cowboys have played in, they haven't been football games at all. They beat the Giants 40-0. Of course, you're not going to be throwing the ball in the second half. You beat the Jets 30-10. Of course, you're not throwing the ball in the second half. The Cardinals is the closest game they play. They lose by 12. New England, they win 38-3. San Fran, they lose 42-10. So you've had two extreme ends of the Dallas Cowboys right now. They're either beating teams so badly that they don't need to push the ball with aggression in the second half. They don't need to throw the ball in the second half. Or they are getting blown out and cannot move the ball down the field regardless. Regardless of the situation, CeeDee Lamb's been real bad. CeeDee Lamb's someone I drafted a ton. I'm not gonna lie to you. I drafted CeeDee Lamb over AJ Brown this year. And CeeDee Lamb, I thought we were really happy with him. After week 2, he gives you the 143 receiving yards off of 13 targets. But since 53 receiving yards, 36 receiving yards, 49 receiving yards, 4 receptions, 4 receptions, 4 receptions. Going over to Tony Pollard, I actually didn't draft Pollard that much. I was a little bit worried that you were going to get another running back going over to Dallas. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter what I did. I thought Tony Pollard, after the first few weeks, looked like a top 5 running back rest of season. I mean, you go through the first 2 weeks, Tony Pollard has 2 touchdowns. Tony Pollard has 11 targets. Tony Pollard has 40 carries and is walking away with almost 50 total touches. I mean, hell, you throw in the week against Arizona as well. He's another 23 carry game. Over the past 2 weeks against New England, doesn't really do anything because he doesn't need to, 38-3. And against San Fran, I mean, he doesn't do anything because it's the 49ers and they get blown out 42-10. So the Dallas Cowboys, I do not know what to make of this team. I have no idea if they are good, great, bad, or horrible. We haven't seen this offense play in a real football game yet. Going forward, we will see real football games. The Chargers should be a close game on Monday night. Reminder, promo good flock and underdog, Justin Herbert special pick of more than less than half a total yard. The Rams game, late October. Then we get the Eagles, the Giants, the Panthers, Commanders, Seahawks. So I don't know what we can realistically do with these Dallas Cowboys. I think the last thing you could do is probably go through and sell them after they get embarrassed on primetime. Probably just have to hold and see if something happens. See if something changes. See what they can give us on Monday night. Now, going over to a running back, super brief. Kyren Williams had a bad game. Horrendous matchup against Philadelphia. He had every single snap. He had every single opportunity. Do not worry about Kyren Williams. Still a top 12 running back next week. And yes, it's not like Cooper Kupp comes in and Kyren Williams all of a sudden a bad running back. It was just the game environment. It was just the matchup in particular. Kyren's going to be great. But I think that's all I have for y'all with this video. Again, if you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you want to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the comment section or the description. Promo code FLOCK, you're going to be getting a 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings, plus a Jordan Love special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard, plus on Monday, a Justin Herbert special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard. Super happy I'm able to get y'all all of that. Please make sure you take advantage. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day and really hope we get to see you out in the live stream later today.